Imagine defeating the greatest hero in the world, only to wake up in modern Tokyo, inside the body of a dead teenager. Everyone thinks he's just an ordinary kid, but they don't know that the legendary corpse god has returned. And this time, he's bringing magic into a world that was never meant to have it. In a blood-soaked battlefield, soldiers stood frozen in fear. Not from wounds, but from a terrifying aura crushing their will. Before them stood the corpse god, an undead monster who controls the dead and turns corpses into weapons.
The strongest hero party arrived, led by Chijiro. Unlike the others, he felt no fear. Without hesitation, Chijiro charged in. The final battle began.
The corpse god recognized his danger, especially the power hidden in his eyes. Chajiro attacked at blinding speed using acceleration magic, but it still wasn't enough. Realizing his physical attacks wouldn't work, the corpse god quickly changed his strategy. He gathered the souls of the fallen soldiers on the battlefield and used them to summon a massive white dragon. A terrifying monster of pure death appeared, shaking the entire battlefield.
But Chihiro calmly sliced the dragon in half. Enraged, the corpse god raised an undead army. Victory suddenly looked impossible.
Emilia, the healer, shouted with confidence. "Don't give up! Chajiro won't lose to trash like that! I'm sure he'll finish this no matter what! Don't lose! You're the Calamity Crusher! That title wasn't given for nothing!"
But at that moment, Chojiro was lost in his memories. Back when he was a child, his kingdom was attacked by terrifying monsters, and countless people lost their lives.
Unlike everyone else, Chojiro could see the souls of the dead. Thousands of spirits followed him wherever he went.
Carrying that burden from such a young age nearly broke him. But suddenly, he snapped back to reality and glared at the corpse god with pure rage. Then he declared, "Those who cling to life can never defeat someone who has embraced death. And I swear I'll make you suffer, you bastard." The corpse god froze. He had realized something terrifying. Chajiro could see the spirits under his control. Shocked, he asked, "Wait, do you possess the evil eye?" But Chajiro ignored him completely.
He charged straight into the undead army, and with every strike, more enemies fell. Soon, the battlefield descended into chaos.
After a powerful attack, the corpse god's skeletal body began to crack, finally revealing his true form. But instead of panicking, the corpse god smiled. Then he said, "We're more alike than you think. I can see souls too. The only difference is that I see them as tools. Join me, Chajiro. A man like you shouldn't die for these people." But Chajiro refused without hesitation. "I'm nothing like you." And with those words, he charged forward once again. Images of his destroyed homeland flashed through his mind. The innocent children, and all the people he failed to save. His anger finally exploded, and with Emilia cheering him on from behind, he unleashed every last bit of his strength. With one final roar, the battle came to an end. The corpse god had finally been defeated. Or at least, that's what everyone thought. Because when Chihiro searched for the corpse god's soul, it was gone. At the very last second, the corpse god's final spell had activated, and instead of dying, his soul was transported to another world. But where did he go? And does he still possess the same terrifying power in this new world? Let's find out.
Meanwhile, in a highly advanced modern city, a young boy suddenly woke up covered in blood. He had no idea who he was, where he was, or how he got there.
His body was weak and badly injured. It was obvious that someone had tried to kill him. But who and why? As he searched for help, he followed a faint light in the distance, eventually reaching the main street while still bleeding and barely able to stand. That's when someone spotted him. The man stared in shock and said, "Impossible! Wasn't the mission already completed?" Without hesitation, he made a call and reported that the target was still alive. And just like that, the hunt began again. What Polka didn't know was that these were the same people who had murdered the original owner of his body. And they had no intention of leaving him alive. Before they could reach him, 2 police officers approached and began asking questions. At first, he couldn't understand them, so he secretly cast a translation spell. Even after understanding their language, he still had no answers, so the officers decided to take him to the police station. But before they could leave, a mysterious girl suddenly appeared, claiming that the boy was with her. The boy's name was Polka Shinoyama, and the girl standing beside him was Misaki, the very assassin who was supposed to have killed him. At first, she acted as if nothing had happened, but her smile soon disappeared. Looking straight at him, she asked, "Didn't I slit your throat earlier? So how are you still alive?" Polka froze. Just moments ago, he thought she had come to help him. Confused, Polka stepped back. "Why are you trying to kill me? I don't even know who I am. The only thing I remember is the name Polka Shinoyama." But Misaki didn't care. She raised her weapon and replied, "None of that matters. I was paid to kill you, and I always finish the job." In panic, Polka ran away and hid inside an abandoned building. He tried to think of a way to use his magic like before, but Misaki kept closing in on him without stopping. She whispered as she approached, "I found you." At the critical moment, Polka regained his memories and power. "I can't die now, not after finally finding the life I wanted." With sheer willpower, he stood up, pulled the dagger out of his body, and started running. He eventually reached an abandoned warehouse, a place used by criminals and outcasts. Misaki followed him closely, confident he couldn't escape. But something changed. Polka suddenly felt it, spirits surrounding him, and he realized his power was still there. He began chanting a mysterious spell, and the atmosphere shifted completely. Misaki rushed in to finish him, but this time, Polka didn't run. He summoned the spirits and unleashed a powerful spell, instantly overwhelming her. Under the shocked gaze of the watching man, Sao said to her, "Your mistake was underestimating me. Never underestimate spirits again." Then Polka looked at the abandoned place and smiled. "So this is it, a world full of magical energy. At last I can live the life I've always dreamed of. From this moment on, the real game of death begins. Dead Mount Death play. Everything that's coming is destruction." But before we continue, let's pause here and talk about the past of the corpse god. In his childhood, his parents discovered he could see spirits. Instead of caring for him, they decided to use him for profit. They sold him to sorcerers for 6 gold coins without any concern for his feelings. As he grew older, he was forced into battles and made to kill innocent people against his will. This is where a merciless killing instinct began to develop inside him. After the war ended and the kingdom was destroyed, he isolated himself in a distant cave.
away from people, because all he ever wanted was peace. Eventually, he met a woman, fell in love with her, and married her. For the first time, he had a normal life. But everything changed when they were suddenly attacked. She was killed without mercy.
From that moment on, he swore an oath to destroy the oppressors and protect the innocent children. And that is how the corpse god became what he is now, a being with no mercy. For him, souls are nothing more than entertainment.
After snapping out of his memories, Polka thought, what have I done? I finally got a chance to live in this world, and now I'm going to be judged for killing someone? I was only defending myself, nothing more. No one would believe me even if I explained it. She was the one trying to kill me, not the other way around. Meanwhile, the blonde-haired man contacted Clarissa and explained everything that had happened, and it was clear that Polka wasn't the one at fault. As Misaki lay dying, memories of her past began to resurface. She was once an innocent girl, until criminals murdered her parents right in front of her eyes. From that day on, she devoted her life to revenge. With Clarissa's help, she hunted down countless criminals, including the man who killed her parents. But after finally getting her revenge, she lost her purpose in life. That's why she accepted the job to kill Polka, not out of hatred, but for the money. She believed it would be her final mission, but things didn't go as planned. In the end, she suffered fatal injuries, and despite everything she had done, Polka still tried to save her life. Suddenly, Clarissa and her men showed up. Stay where you are and surrender. But Polka ignored them completely and focused on healing Misaki. Clarissa's men pointed their weapons at him, but Polka released a portion of his power, and dozens of spirits suddenly filled the area. Everyone froze in fear. They finally realized what kind of monster was standing before them. Then Polka warned them, if you want to die, I can end your lives right here. Clarissa remained silent for a moment. But suddenly, a nearby building burst into flames. Clarissa decided to leave the rescue operation to the police, but Polka refused to stand by and watch. He begged her to help the trapped children, and if she wouldn't do it herself, at least let him save them. Surprised by his kindness, Clarissa agreed. She couldn't believe someone with such terrifying power had such a good heart. Without wasting time, Takumi guided him to the burning building. Using his skeletal servants, Polka rescued the children one by one. With help from their families, everyone made it out safely. The incident quickly spread across the news, and the entire country was shocked. No one could explain what had happened, or who those mysterious skeletons were. It was clear that this case was far from ordinary, which is why they decided to call Japan's greatest detective, the legendary Tsubaki Iwanomi. But can he solve the mystery? Or will he end up just like everyone else? Later, Polka told Clarissa about his goals. But Clarissa quickly brought him back to reality. Dreams like that need money. And not just a little. You'll need millions. Then she offered him a place in her organization, promising to help him achieve everything he wanted. Polka didn't hesitate for long. He accepted the offer, and from that day on, he started living with Clarissa and her group. After arriving at the headquarters, Polka began adjusting to his new life, spending his time reading books to learn more about this world. He also contacted Polka's family and told them he had left on a long journey, promising to stay in touch from time to time. But what truly worried him was how he was supposed to deal with Polka's family. After all, he only knew their names.
But because of the fatal wound, most of Polka's memories were lost.
While reading, he discovered something surprising. In this world, whales were just ordinary creatures, unlike in his previous world. Curious, the others asked about his appearance and name in his old world.
He calmly replied, "I was the skeleton of a gigantic dragon, and my title was the Corpse God."
Everyone was truly amazed by his story. Then we discovered something. The real Polka forgave Misaki for the assassination attempt and decided to give her a second chance at life.
Sao is still able to communicate with Polka's soul inside the bird he is holding. He promised that if he finds a way to return to his original world, he will give Polka his body back. And surprisingly, the real Polka agreed to the deal. At that moment, a new client arrives, asking for protection. He says a killer group is trying to eliminate him after he reported them to the police. Misaki refuses immediately. "I'm not interested in something like this. Find someone else." But Polka agrees instead. "If you pay more, we'll take the job." The client has no choice but to accept. Misaki, seeing Polka's determination, agrees to work with him. They go with the client, who points to the location of the enemy group. This is the place. They're inside. Misaki storms in and quickly starts eliminating them one by one. But it was a trap. The client had deceived them from behind. Misaki is heavily injured and collapses to the ground. But Polka steps forward calmly. Thinking the situation is over, they were wrong. Misaki stands up again, furious, and continues fighting. Together, they unleash a devastating attack, crushing their enemies brutally. It turns out Polka already understood the situation. Everything was done for the sake of protecting the children. After finishing the mission, the children are safely rescued, and the group disappears once again, leaving the day in peace. The next day, Sao reads about vampires. He discovers that they are just legends in this world, unlike his previous world where they actually existed. Meanwhile, at Clarissa's cafe, Detective Tsubaki is sitting there feeling dizzy from drinking too much. He asks the staff about the fire that happened yesterday, but they say they know nothing about it, and even Clarissa herself has no information. Tsubaki is not fully convinced, but eventually leaves the place. At the same time, Polka explains Misaki's new ability, a paralysis power that activates when she bites someone, causing temporary paralysis. Before he finishes speaking, Misaki suddenly bites him. She looks at Takumi and asks if he wants to try. He replies in shock, "Are you crazy?" and immediately refuses. At the same time, a man is fighting 3 opponents, but he is quickly taken down by another person. That person is Arata, one of the famous detectives investigating the case. He receives a call from Tsubaki and heads to a new crime scene. A brutal massacre has taken place. The bodies show extreme and unnatural violence, as if a non-human force was behind it. The detectives begin connecting both cases together and discover there is a deeper mystery behind everything. Both Tsubaki and Arata clearly understand one thing. This case is far more dangerous than they expected, and it seems their intelligence is on another level. The next day, most of the detectives gathered at the Shinjuku Police Department. Tsubaki showed them photos of several suspects connected to the case. But there was one problem. Every suspect had either already been arrested or had left the country long ago. Since nobody could make sense of it, Arata decided to investigate the crime scene himself.
Meanwhile, Sao managed to transfer Polka's soul into the doll. As for Takumi, he was simply happy to have his bird back.
Then, Masaki suddenly walked in. As they talked, Sao began looking for a way to make the doll speak. In his previous world, that would have been easy. But in this world, magical energy was extremely scarce.
Then, Sayu remembered the magical stones he had read about in a book. According to him, they weren't impossible to find. In this world, they were simply called gemstones. Things like diamonds, rubies, coral, and other precious stones. Though to him, they were nothing special. Sayu explained that with just a small amount of them, he could restore the doll, and maybe even find a way back to his original world. Excited, he suggested using gemstones for his plan.
But Takumi stared at him in disbelief. Are you an idiot? Do you have any idea how expensive those things are?
Realizing he needed money, Polky decided to keep working with the group. And right on cue, a new mission arrived.
While heading to their mission, they ran into a mysterious man. And that man was Arata. The moment Takumi saw him, he told everyone to run.
At the same time, Tsubaki tried to get information from Clarissa, but she denied knowing anything. Arata spoke to Takumi seriously, as if he already knew him.
والواضح كده انه عرفه بياخد باله ان خوف سايو مساكف بيقدم اعتذاره لكن سايو تعصب وقال له لو سمحت رجع الطيارة فلو ما انتش واخد بالك دي تخص واحد صاحبي.
Arata stepped closer and said, "A boy like you shouldn't be hanging around a thief like Takumi. You'll end up becoming trash like him." At that moment, Sao immediately got angry. A serious expression appeared on his face, and he pushed him away. Then he warned him, "Don't ever speak about my friend like that again." But instead of getting upset, Arata became even more interested in him. He felt like he had finally found someone worth his attention. Since Takumi knew very well how dangerous Arata was, he quickly tried to calm the situation. Then he directly contacted Sao and tried to calm him down. Then Takumi contacted Arata again. He asked him to let his friends leave and said they would settle things between themselves, since his friends had nothing to do with the case. But Arata calmly refused. So Takumi threatened him with the cameras, saying, "Think about your reputation and what people will say when they see you attacking innocent kids." But Arata replied coldly that he didn't care. "I just need to know the truth about the white-haired boy."
Arata began talking about Takumi's past. He warned them not to trust him, saying he could betray them at any moment, just like he did with his previous group. He said, "Don't give him your trust. If he ever gets the chance, he'll sell you out without hesitation, just to save his own life." He said, "Don't give him your trust. If he ever gets the chance, he'll sell you out without hesitation, just to save his own life." Sao replied, "So what? Even if he's as dirty as you say, at least he hasn't reached your level." Arata was surprised, thinking to himself that this kid couldn't possibly be just a middle school student. The aura surrounding him felt different, like a leader's presence, and he could clearly sense his strength and even a thirst for blood.
Arata was expecting Sao's attack, but suddenly noticed that the girl had disappeared. Before he could react, he was kicked by her. Sao took the chance and escaped with her. At that moment, Arata immediately realized they were not ordinary people. He tried to chase them, but they successfully got away.
After that, Takumi calmed down and thought about his former partners. He admitted to himself that Arata was right. They couldn't fully trust him. So he contacted them to make sure they were safe, and they reassured him that everything was fine. On the other side,
Arata examined the footprints. They matched those from the previous incident. He concluded that they were professional killers, and he became convinced that they were connected to that massacre. They were also suspicious of an infamous assassin known as Lemmings.
Tsubaki continued his investigation at Clarissa's cafe. Sao and Misaki entered the place, and Tsubaki received a message from Arata identifying the suspects. He tried to keep them distracted until Arata and the detectives arrived.
Takumi tried to warn Misaki, but it was already too late. The detectives arrived, and the situation escalated.
Suddenly, Misaki falsely accuses Arata of assaulting her. Arata was shocked by what had just happened. Everyone started talking and arguing, trying to understand the situation.
Then the power went out, and it wasn't Clarissa. It was the infamous assassin, Lemmings. Chaos spread through the place when Lemmings suddenly appeared. Arata ordered his men to attack and capture him by force, but Lemmings was incredibly fast, taking him down one by one with ease. Arata was left alone facing him, but Lemmings completely ignored him and rushed toward Misaki, grabbing her and escaping. Even Sao couldn't do anything since he couldn't use his power because everyone was there.
Arata tried once again to confront him, but the difference in power was terrifying. Lemmings kicked him hard, smashing him through the glass and revealing his overwhelming strength. He tried to escape, but Sao refused to let him go. Sao apologized to his mentor and activated 3 spells around him. Clarissa immediately noticed and extinguished all the candles so no one could see his power. The battle began.
No one could see anything, and Lemmings was incredibly fast. Sao summoned giant spiritual arms, but couldn't catch him as he kept dodging everything. Lemmings managed to grab Misaki again, but she whispered in his ear and bit his hand to paralyze him.
Sayu took advantage of the moment, used spiritual energy, and summoned a giant skeletal entity to attack him. But Lemmings managed to escape through the window at the last second. Then the lights came back on, and everyone managed to escape safely.
In the meantime, Lemmings reported to his master that Polka was still alive. The man laughed hysterically, as if he had expected Polka's death all along. But the real reason behind everything will be revealed later. Meanwhile, Sue decided to open a fortune-telling business as a cover. Unexpectedly, it became a huge success in a very short time. One day, Polka's cousins, Kozuki and Shizuki, suddenly appeared at the shop. Polka was surprised to see them. They asked him when he would return, and he calmly told them that he would be back soon. The 2 children asked him to read their fortune, but they were told that business hours were over and to come back later. When they refused to leave, Takumi threatened to call the police. Kozuki got angry and was about to reveal her full name, but the bodyguard quickly stopped her. At that moment, Sao suddenly stepped in and hugged them. Then he activated his special eyes and noticed a high-class spirit standing behind them. The spirit had only one request: to protect the 2 children standing before him. After what happened, Sao decided to go to the house the next day. But he didn't know how he would deal with them, since he knew nothing about the family. Right now, he was Sao, not Polka. At that moment, the original owner of the body told him not to worry and that he would be with him.
Then Takumi gave him the address and explained everything about the Shinoyama family. They were an extremely wealthy family, named after their founder, Shinoyama Rosen. Rosen was about to turn 79, and it was expected that he might die soon. Not only that, but Polka was the second son of the family, born from another woman, and had a share in the inheritance. They still didn't know who paid for the assassination attempt on him, but it was clear it was someone from the family, and the motive was the inheritance.
So Sal's mission during the visit was to observe Rozan Shinoyama and find out who wanted him dead.
He was also advised to bring protection so he wouldn't need to use his powers in front of others and reveal that he wasn't the real son. At first, he considered bringing the skeletal entity with him, but rejected the idea since it would draw too much attention.
So Takumi suggested bringing Misaki instead. Yes, she was a bit crazy and unpredictable, but she could get the job done. In the end, he had no choice but to agree, hoping everything would go smoothly. The next morning, they arrived at the Shinoyama family mansion, but it turned out to be not just a house, but a massive estate. They were greeted by Tosuko and Shizuki, along with their older brother Takaro, who asked about his disappearance and the girl with him. Meanwhile, it was clear that the man working with Lemmings, the one who had previously attempted to assassinate him, was connected to everything. But Polka still didn't know the truth. Sao tried to cover it up, saying he had become a businessman and that Misaki was his secretary. The lie worked on some of them, but the father wasn't convinced. He suddenly asked, "Where is Polka? Who are you? And what did you do to my son?" Sao was shocked and tried to dodge the questions, but the father placed a sword at his neck. He said coldly, "You won't fool me. Tell me who you are and what you did to my son." At that moment, Sao felt the real danger. He asked the father to let him go because the children's lives were in danger. He said, "Let me save them first, and I will explain everything." Then Sao rushed out, and suddenly flames began to erupt everywhere, as if the warned disaster had already begun. In the background, the truth began to surface. Years ago, Kazuko lost something important in the forest, so her older sister Oki went to search for it. There, she discovered that Takeru was plotting with a hired assassin to target the children and take control of the inheritance. But she was discovered and was ruthlessly killed. Now, the same plan is happening again, targeting Kazuko and Shizuki in order to seize the entire family fortune. The assassin disguises himself as one of the servants and secretly moves them to safety. Meanwhile, Tsubaki and Arata were interrogating one of the criminals linked to the case, trying to obtain any information about a previous fire or an old incident. They asked him whether the same flames were connected to that event, but the man remained evasive and refused to admit anything. Eventually, he managed to leave without revealing any useful information. And we return again to the killer. He had led them into an enclosed place, and everyone slowly realized they had fallen into a real trap. Suddenly, he revealed his electric ability, and fear spread among them as they believed the end was near. But Misaki caught him off guard and struck him, while Owaki's spirit appeared to reassure her that Salu and she would finish this. The killer grew furious, removed his disguise, and launched a full attack, setting the entire place on fire until there was no escape. It truly looked like the end. At that moment, Sawio stormed in, rescued the children, and returned them to their families before grabbing the criminal and beating him down. Did you really think you could fool me with that maid disguise? The criminal tried to distract everyone while using his powers to spread the fire even further. But suddenly, a figure appeared out of nowhere and ended everything in an instant. It was Lemmings, who vanished before anyone could even see him. After that, the criminal was taken into police custody. While sitting inside the police car, he was thinking of a way to escape when the real flames suddenly appeared. And then, boom! The entire vehicle exploded. As the flames spread, a voice echoed. "This world is a buggy program, so it cries out for the flame." After everything settled down, Shao and Misaki sat down with Rosen to explain the whole truth. Rosen demanded answers, But Xiao first asked him to have his men leave the room so they could speak freely.
Once they were alone, Cao revealed the shocking truth. He was not the real Polka. He had come from another world and somehow ended up in Polka's body while he was on the verge of death. He also admitted that Misaki was the one who killed Polka's original body. But he reassured Rozan that Polka was still safe and that it was only a matter of time before he returned to his original body.
When Rozan heard this, he immediately drew his sword in anger. But before anything could happen, Polka's real spirit appeared and stopped him. He explained that Misaki was only following orders and asked his father to forgive her. Before disappearing, he apologized for leaving while still causing him pain and told him that Misaki deserved a second chance. Deeply moved by his son's words, Rozan finally chose to forgive her.
As they prepared to leave, Misaki apologized to Polka for everything she had done. And before the day ended, Kazuki and Shizuki thanked her as well for saving their lives.
Tsubaki gathered Arata and the rest of the team, asking for their help to capture Tanada Sorimura again. One of them questioned how he managed to escape after being interrogated the day before, especially since they were experienced investigators. Tsubaki got angry and insisted that the situation was unpredictable and that Sorimura had vanished without a trace. Arata stepped in and told everyone to calm down and focus on finding a solution instead of arguing, so they started planning how to catch him again.
Meanwhile, an emergency news broadcast reported the escape of Tenna Sorimura. The anchor criticized how a dangerous criminal could escape despite tight security and multiple investigators, warning the public about the threat. But suddenly, everyone was shocked when the news anchor revealed that he himself was Tenna Sorimura, admitting it live on air. He knocked the authorities, confessed everything, and promised more chaos before ending the broadcast.
Tsubaki was furious, realizing the situation had completely spiraled out of control. Even Sao and the others, after watching the broadcast, began to suspect that he might be connected to the same flames, but they had no proof. Before they could figure out their next move, someone knocked on the door, and when they opened it, Polka's sister appeared. Everyone was completely shocked when Polka's older sister appeared. When asked why she came, she calmly replied that from now on, she would be living with them in order to monitor Polka and observe any changes in him, as she had started to doubt him. She then introduced herself properly. I am Iso, Polka's older sister, and this is my personal bodyguard, Xiaoyo. The bodyguard greeted them politely.
Rozan then spoke to Polka, asking him to allow Iso to stay with them temporarily until the situation calmed down and the danger passed. He apologized, saying he knew it was a burden. Polka was deeply moved by his words and agreed to let her stay.
The next day, Arata and Tsubaki went to the Shinoyama mansion again to investigate the case. On their way back, they began suspecting Takeru more seriously, especially since he was accompanied by 2 hired assassins as protection, aside from lemmings operating in the shadows. Back at the police station, they discussed everything they had discovered. Meanwhile, Takeru was secretly watching them from a distance, realizing that they were starting to suspect him, especially since the fire incident happened on the exact day Polka arrived. He told his partner not to act yet, saying they should observe and gather more information before eliminating them. And by him, he clearly meant Polka.
Later, Iso and Xiaoyo were alone in a room after Polka had sent them away so they would not be able to hear his conversation. However, Xiaoyo was not as naive as he seemed. In reality, he was eavesdropping on everything with great attention. Rozan had secretly sent him to protect Iso and uncover Polka's true intentions. Since Rozan trusted him completely, Xiaoyo took the mission very seriously.
While listening to Kuzan's conversation, Xiaoyo was deeply shocked by Polka's reality,
as well as by how much trust Kuzan had in him. However, Kuzan reassured him that he had great experience with people and could understand their intentions. Even so, he sent him to continue investigating in order to be completely certain.
It was also revealed that Xiao Yu held a personal hatred toward Polka. He saw him as unworthy of the Shinoyama name, believing that he lacked talent and had no right to inherit the family legacy.
In truth, his real loyalty belonged to Razan, who had saved him in the past when his own family abandoned him. From that moment on, Xiaoyu dedicated himself completely to Razan and considered Polka a disgrace to the family. As for Razan, he trusted him deeply, and because of that, he told Xiaoyu the truth about Iso.
They arrived at the meeting, where he explained that dragons exist in the world they came from. He described them as destructive beings, though some can take human form and live among humans peacefully, but they are indifferent to chaos and destruction. Xiaoyu immediately rejected the explanation, calling it nonsense and demanding more practical information instead.
However, Sayo realized that Xiaoyu had been eavesdropping. Calmly, he assured them that the boy could be trusted and that he was still protecting Aso, suggesting he was concerned for her safety. Xiaoyu was surprised and looked around for hidden cameras, but found none, which only deepened his confusion. The day ended in that state of uncertainty.
The next day, the investigators Arata and Tsubaki continued their investigation into the teenager Shinoyama Polka. They reported that the boy belonged to the wealthy and well-known Shinoyama family, but had been separated from them for some time. He also had connections with the criminal Takumi and had been seen multiple times with Misaki.
There were also traces linking him to the gang incident, and even his careless conversation at Clarissa's cafe had increased suspicion around him. For someone with the wealth and influence of the Shinoyama family, it was strange that he would associate with criminals. The investigation continued to deepen, and they were slowly getting closer to the truth. And so ends the first part of the story. What will happen next? Will Polka's secrets and those behind him be revealed? Or will Polka manage to handle the situation? And will he return to his original world? Stay tuned for the second part of Sao's story.